Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, that's a really good intro. So today I have a book review on a book that a lot of people have read and a lot of people know about. That would be A Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. Now, I got this book when it came out, the night it came out, because I wanted to be excited about it. I remember I came home from school and I ran, well, I didn't actually run, but I walked quite quickly to the nearest chapters and picked up the book. And the woman at the checkout counter was like, "How excited are you for this book?" And I was like, "I'm very excited enough to come, that night and get it." However, usually if you're that excited about a book, it doesn't take you that long to read it, and it definitely took me way longer to read this book than I thought it was going to. I'll explain my reasoning for that. For those of you that don't know about, what The Casual Vacancy is about, I'll refresh your minds. It's basically about a small town, Pagford, which is in England, and right at the beginning of the book, a man named Barry Fairbrother dies. He doesn't get murdered or anything like that. He has a brain aneurysm, and he just sort of drops dead unexpectedly. And then from this moment, everything else that happens in the book sort of affected by that. The entire town is affected by Barry's death. Certain people are affected more than others, but you basically spend the entire time learning about this town, all of the issues and problems that they have, and the big thing is who's going to take Barry Fairbrother's seat on the parish council. And the parish council is coming up to a really important vote, so there's this very political side of it as well as a very social human side of it, where you learn all the issues of the people in the town. Yeah, that's a good summary right there. When I originally started reading this book, I was incredibly confused after the first chapter. The first chapter is Barry dying, and that's easy to understand just because there's only so many characters in it. After that point, there's different parts in the book. The book is split up into 7 parts, which I actually kind of thought, oh, J.K. Rowling always liked the number 7, so I just thought that was, an interesting thing to point out. The different parts had the different chapters, and every time there was a chapter switch, it was like you were switching perspectives of characters, and you were learning all these new characters, and I was like, I couldn't remember who anybody was. The first 300 pages, this book is a little over 500 pages, and the first 300 pages, I was very bored. I was trying really hard to keep track of who the characters were, kind of pausing after I read their names and said, okay, so is that the father of this person, or the relative, or the friend, or the enemy? Like, there's so many interrelationships going on here between, adults and their kids in the town. It's really hard to remember, and I'm sure everybody else who's read this book can attest with me on that. Now, after about page 300, that's when I really started to understand who everybody was. I read the last 200 pages way faster than I read the first 300, and I don't necessarily think that's because I understood who the characters were. I think it's because I really felt like reading. It wasn't even that I was like, The Casual Vacancy is so good, I'm gonna finish it. It was just like, I just felt like reading that day. And so I actually ended up reading almost 150 pages over the span of about 24 hours, and was like, okay, finally, I finished The Casual Vacancy. In terms of the characters, besides the fact that you are completely bombarded by them continually for the first few chapters, none of them are likable at all. Like, they're all extremely flawed. There are some eventually that you start to like more than others. Like, I definitely ended up picking a side between characters, and there was sides to be picked because people were vying for the parish council seat. There was characters who I thought were kind of like bullies, and they were just being, horrible people, and so I didn't like them as much. I sort of sided with the more Barry Fairbrother team, just because everybody kept describing him as such a nice guy, and also he was for this place called The Fields, which is like a neighborhood where people who have no money, are really poor, fighting drug addictions, they live there, and you meet characters from there, and you start to feel sympathetic towards them just because their lives are so horrible. So I started to side with that side. There isn't a happy ending in this book either. I mean, somebody does get elected to the parish council, but other things happen to characters that you do start to like, and that's really depressing. I didn't cry at the end. I feel like somewhere J.K. Rowling said she wouldn't be surprised if people cried at the end. I definitely felt supremely depressed though after finishing the book. I finished it at like midnight, and I was just sort of sitting here like, damn, that was just really depressing, and now I feel sad, and like I just want to like lie down and lay here for a while and think about all the horrible things that happened in this book. With that being said, and sort of my experience reading the book, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Definitely not one of my favorite of her books, obviously, because it's competing with an extremely popular series, which I absolutely love to death, so good to know I won't have any trouble picking which one I like better. In terms of recommendations, I'm a little hesitant just because I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. However, anybody who really likes a story that is very character driven and there's a lot of conflict between characters and you really get in depth into why these characters are the way they are, and you're not so much into the action but more the psychological and the social, this is the kind of book that I feel you would enjoy. Overall, really boring for the first 300 pages, not very many likable characters, just not the best story for me. So if you guys have read The Casual Vacancy, tell me what you thought. I know reviews are extremely mixed, but I definitely feel like they're more on the side. Is anybody still gonna read it? You haven't read it yet, but you're still going to just because it's J.K. Rowling, because that's a big part of it too. It's because it's by her. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you like book reviews, you like what you see here on the channel, feel free to subscribe. And we also have links to our Twitter and our Goodreads accounts down below in the doobly-doo. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.